So, human resource management matters because people matter. First of all, organizations can't make their products and deliver their services without human beings. Yes, AI can do some things. Yes, robotics can do some things, but we still need people to run the AI. We still need people to run the robotics. So call it what you will. And there's a lot of things that cannot be given to technology. For example, a lot of engineering tasks need to be done by human beings. A lot of selection decisions really need to be done by human beings because of the errors and the flaws that happen in artificial intelligence. So it is extraordinarily important that we remember, first of all, people matter and people are essential to accomplishing the mission of the business. Second, it's the people that influence whether or not people want to come to the organization, engage with the organization, or leave the organization. And there's a saying out there that people don't leave organizations, they leave bad managers. And that is very true. If I have a good manager, even if the job is boring or if I don't like it, I'm going to stick around. But when I have a bad manager, it makes my life a living hell. And the last thing I want to do is be engaging in an organization where I am not respected, where I'm treated poorly. And a great example of this is my son. My son was going to work for a company that will be nameless, and he was doing deliveries, and he called into his dispatcher and said, hey, I got a really bad blister on my foot. I'm just letting you know. I may need to take a couple of hours to take care of this, and then I will get back to delivering. And they said, you're lying. And he said, okay. And he walked away from the company. He quit, the next day. Because why would you accuse somebody of lying? Why does that sound like a good idea? When we don't treat people with respect, when we assume that they are a commodity, that they can be replaced easily, and that they don't have anything good to offer the company, again, why would we want to expect people to stay if you don't treat them fairly? So that ASA framework is what we call attraction, selection, attrition. People will come to work for a company if their friends recommend it to them. People will stay and engage with the company if the company treats them fairly and kindly and doesn't abuse them. And then they will leave a company if they are not being treated well. Human capital is the thing that is central to all of this. Human capital is all the knowledge, skills, and abilities, and you'll hear this term. Knowledge, skills, and abilities is called KSAs or KSAOs, meaning knowledge, skills, abilities, and other. KSAs are the central part of everything we do in HR. We need to know what knowledge, skills, and abilities people need so we can help with recruiting, it can help with hiring, it can help with performance management, it can help with training. All of these things are a big part of understanding what KSAOs are and why it matters. Human capital is what each of us brings to the table, the stuff that we are willing to offer to the organization in exchange for good pay, good benefits, and good working conditions, bottom line. So individuals that want to grow in a company, that want to be a part of a company, need to be able to bring their human capital to the table and be rewarded accordingly for it. Alternatively, if the company wants to grow, it needs to depend on its human capital for the people to do the work and to help them to grow and to help them to survive and thrive. So, human resource as a discipline matters because that's our job in HR, is to manage all the people, to help our managers do a good job of managing their people, to set up the policies to make sure the policies are fair and the way that we handle all the issues for our employees And we are an advocate for the employees as well as an advocate for management in a sort of a bi-directional way. So I will be an advocate for my employees with top management, and I also have to be an advocate for top management with my employees. They need to know, right, why we're doing things, because adults always want to know the whys about things. Organization culture is fundamental to the way an organization behaves and the way it influences people to treat each other in the organization. These are taken for granted assumptions about what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. Some of it's very explicit and some of it's not so explicit, but the goal is recognizing that each company has a very unique culture and a very unique way of going about getting work accomplished. So you could do the same job in two different companies, but the culture in one company will lead you to behave in a certain way, but a culture in a different company, it'll lead you to behave in a very different way. So our goal is, first of all, to be able to teach people what that culture is, and we do that with onboarding, as we'll talk about later on in the semester. Onboarding guides people to understand what is the culture, why do we do things the way we do, and how important it is for us to train people in that manner. Second, we should be aware of the different kinds of cultures that are out there. And while these 4 items listed here, clan, adhocracy, market, and hierarchy, are not exhaustive, but they tend to be the general categories in which most cultures tend to fall. So we'll start with the clan culture. And the clan culture is about being collaborative and making sure that people are working together well as a team, that we're very people-oriented, we power and engage, have empowered workers who are engaged in their job. And so that clan is about taking care of each other and having each other's back. And adhocracy is much more about being entrepreneurial and creative, and it's an ad hoc, meaning there's no set plan or structure around how we do things. It is an ad hoc culture because we are bringing in new ideas and new ways of doing things all the time. So we're going to be highly adaptive. And we see this typically in startups or entrepreneurial ventures, and particularly if they're in growth mode, they're going to be very ad hoc. And so things are going to change rapidly, and you have to be prepared for rapid changes. A market culture is one that is focused on how we respond to our competition in the marketplace. And so if our market competition is doing one thing, are we going to match that? Are we going to contradict that? Are we going to do something different? Knowing what our competitors are doing helps us then to figure out how we want to respond to them. And then lastly, we have a hierarchy culture, which is much more about being focused on controlling prices, controlling behaviors, controlling in policies, and having a lot more control over the environment so that there are no surprises. And this is really polar opposite of the adhocracy, right, where we have no control or structure over things, and often things are very entrepreneurial and they change all the time, whereas in hierarchy cultures, it doesn't change all the time. It stays fairly predictable, and that's the goal. So a hierarchy culture works really well when we are concerned about prices and controlling our costs. So we might be like a Walmart where we charge low prices for things, but we also don't pay people a lot of money because of that. And now contrast that to Aldi. Aldi has low prices, but they have a very different approach to things. They manage their costs in a different way by not having people just randomly leave their grocery carts. They make sure that people take more responsibility for things. They set things up in the store to be more like a warehouse as opposed to a detailed grocery store. They have less variety in what they offer. They have some self-checkout, and then they have some individuals doing checkouts. So they pay more money than, say, a Walmart does, but they save their costs. They save money and they cut costs in different ways. So it depends on your model. Market cultures and adhocracy cultures tend to be much more focused on innovation and competition and competitive advantages and things like that. And these are really good for companies that like to differentiate themselves. And we're going to go into that a lot more in the next couple of lectures in this module. So just be looking out for that thought as you get to the next pieces. Human resource management affects organization cultures in a bunch of different ways. Obviously, we set the tone for the company policies and practices, and we work with top management to develop those policies and practices, which then influence organization culture. The kinds of decisions that we make and the types of ways we expect people to behave based on those decisions also influences our culture. And then each decision that is made makes an incremental change to the way that our company functions. Every new employee we bring into the company changes the culture ever so slightly. So anytime we add a new person to the organization, it changes the organization, and it will subtly change the organization's culture, particularly if somebody comes in and says, I know you've always done it this way, but I've had great success doing this. Can I try that? Hopefully the company would say, sure, let's give it a try. If it's going to be more effective, more efficient, and make us more money, why wouldn't we want to try that? So we will see more in a little bit the important role that HR plays in culture as we think about the interplay of all the important elements in our in the internal structure and in internal dimensions of our organization, the way that we do work, the way we organize, the kinds of people that we hire, the kinds of work that we do, the kind of culture that we want to cultivate. Again, it has to be very intentional, and HR can play a really big role in doing that.